Good evening. My name is Regine de Rousseau-Inuson, and I serve as the Deputy Dean of Students in the college and Executive Director of College Student Life. I am also a very proud alumna of this very fine institution. On behalf of my colleagues assembled with me this evening, I extend to all of you a very warm Uchicago welcome, and thank you for joining us for successfully transitioning your student to the college. In this next hour, we will talk through the 4-year partnership that you as parents and families can expect to have with us as part of the Uchicago support system for your students. We hope that the information we share with you is informative, beneficial, and we promise to try our very best to address as many of the pre-submitted questions as possible, and of course, tackle some of the new questions that we received during this session. If you've not previously submitted questions in a live video chat, we invite you to please use the chat bubble at the bottom of your screen and to simply submit your question there. My colleague Whitney and her team in College Programming and Orientation will assist with getting questions to us. Please, we imagine there are some that we won't be able to get to. Our team will go through them and update the FAQs on the Go Forward website as appropriate. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, and after captioning, it will be uploaded to the orientation site and the Family Orientation online Canvas resource site. Students at this age, as they transition into college, often straddle and quite frankly vacillate between being independent and seeking or wanting your help and support as their parents and family members. We know that you receive the panicky texts, calls, emails, or forwards because you then reach out to us. We get it, these are tough and uncomfortable. Difficult conversations with roommates, suite mates, housemates, intimidating exchanges with faculty, questions or concerns about policies and procedures. They run the gamut and your students turn to you, and that's fine. It's expected. We want our students to have healthy relationships with you, but we also want to be your partners in supporting your students and helping them be successful. While they are your children with this connection to you, they are now our students, and our primary responsibility is to them, and our primary relationship is to them. In your students' time in the college, we want to help them grow as people and help them assume increasing responsibility for their own choices and decisions. To do this, to the extent possible, we want to work with them. That said, one of our main goals this evening is to arm you with the information and resources so that you can help them with navigating Uchicago and supporting them in this first year, especially while dealing with the challenges presented by COVID, but also encouraging them to advocate and speak up for themselves. I'm pleased to be joined this evening by four campus partners. We will introduce ourselves, the areas of the university we represent, and provide brief overviews of the services or support for students offered by our offices. We will then move into a question and answer portion of our session. We have with us Sophia Chaknis, Executive Director of Housing Residence Life and Assistant Dean of the College, Melinda Wasonga, Associate Dean of Students in the College, Associate Dean of Students in the College Academic Advising Office, Mita Kumar, the Director of the Student Counseling Service in Uchicago Student Wellness, and finally, Eric Heath, Associate Vice President of Safety and Security. I will start off by introducing the Office of the Dean of Students in the college. In our office, we are charged with the great responsibility of the overall well-being of your children and their success as students in the college. To do this effectively, we work very closely with colleagues all over campus in some special areas in our own operation. These include academic advising, which we'll hear about shortly, college programming and orientation, college community standards, college student success, and research and fellowships. Our work covers the academic and curricular realm, supporting the classroom experience, the scholarly endeavors of our students in their postgraduate explorations, providing targeted support for students who identify as first generation, lower income, or from immigrant communities, providing support as some temporarily transition out and back into the university, and disciplinary support. And lastly, the celebratory moments from the very beginning, like orientation, all the way to the very end at graduation. We care about your students. We care about their education. We care about their personal and professional success, and we are excited for them to start this amazing journey. We promise to reach out if we're really concerned about them, dire medical and mental health emergencies, and we welcome your contact, both in the Dean of Students office and in residence life, as my colleague Sophia will mention. But there are particular people on our respective teams that we encourage you to liaise with, should you need to, in order to preserve the primary relationship that I referenced before. The academic advisors and resident heads and resident assistants are for your students. Feel free to reach out to me or the Dean of Students, Jay Ellison. Sophia will say the same for the Assistant Directors of Residence Life and her leadership team. They are your people. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Sophia Chaknis.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time. Thank you so much, Regine. I am Sophia Chaknis, the Executive Director of Housing and Residence Life, and I've had the pleasure of working at the University of Chicago for 6 years and the privilege of working in higher education for more than 2 decades. First, I'd like to thank you in advance for your help in making move-in for the class of 2024 a smooth and smashing success. We've taken as many precautions as possible to ensure the safety of our students and their guests, and we're excited to have students return to campus. As you are well aware, these are unprecedented times, and we've made countless adjustments in every aspect of our work in housing and residence life. These changes, however, have not altered our commitment to foster communities designed and dedicated to supporting students through both wonderful and difficult experiences. Ordinarily, when I give this talk to parents and incoming students, I talk about 3 key aspects of support for your students' transition to college and dorm life: patience, boundaries, and non-judgment. However, this year, I want to start with a different but equally important call to action to help transition your student to college life. I'd like to ask for your partnership in starting this year off thoughtfully, safely, and with a focus on helping our students make smart choices. I'm certain you've seen or read about outbreaks of COVID-19 on college campuses all over the country, and these alarming stories have a commonality: students who've elected to participate in large gatherings off campus, ignoring social distancing protocols. The allure of the college party, especially to students who were denied their senior rites of passage earlier this year, is unmistakable. And unfortunately, there's no amount of programming that Housing and Residence Life can provide in the residence halls that will compete with these offerings. Nevertheless, we will try and have countless programs for students to enjoy from their rooms. But I'm not naive, and I'm therefore asking you to please, before taking leave of your student, talk to them about the privilege they have in being able to reside on campus. The class of 2024 has the ability and responsibility, as 3/4 of the residence hall population is comprised of first-year students, to help set the tone for the year and enable thousands of students to remain on campus this fall and for others to return for winter and spring. For our part, Housing and Residence Life will continue to provide communication to you about what is happening on campus in our residence halls and our continued expectations for your student. We know that this is a particularly challenging time, and we are all worried about how incoming students will adjust to campus life, a campus life that doesn't resemble what we would call normal. We are focused on staying connected, providing resources, and developing rich communities for everyone. And despite the difficulties, we know the University of Chicago house experience is amazing and will continue to be amazing. In thinking about your student and their growth, they'll need emotional support. College can be challenging, and for many, it's a time of confusing relationships, redefined friendships, academic pressures, and transition. And many have a hard time at first, and this year is no exception. Students have a tendency to call home when they're having an emotionally difficult day, and many choose to share their positive experiences with their friends and a higher proportion of the negative experiences with their families. You can provide support and encouragement by asking your students to share some of their successes as well as challenges. And remember, they are seeking a sounding board for their experience and not necessarily action. Feel free to ask them if they've talked to their resident advisor, resident head, or college advisor. Your students will need room for mistakes. They will make mistakes as they explore what it is to be an adult, and some mistakes are more detrimental than others, and many will be important life lessons. In Housing and Residence Life, our approach is to talk with students and help them understand their decisions. Our approach is generally non-punitive, and we always try to deal with situations at the lowest level. If your students should find themselves in a discipline or other difficult position, please know that we always encourage students to call you. And we do not generally discuss specifics with you, but we're always happy to receive your call. In some instances this year, as Regine noted, when we are particularly concerned about your student, you may receive a call from us. And as a matter of course, we tell your student when we speak with you. We want to create trust, and we know that parents who've been involved in their students' lives are no longer involved in a day-to-day decision-making. And parents wonder what their student is doing when they haven't heard from them. In addition to safety concerns, you worry about choices being made in other areas. As part of the trust we're building with your students, the residence hall staff relationship should be with your student. Please call your assistant director, your student's assistant director, excuse me, if you have concerns or questions or need help. All of their email addresses and our phone number are on the housing website. This year, I know physical distances may seem even farther, and you, parents, may be particularly concerned about your student. Parents can help by maintaining a healthy distance and encouraging students to utilize the resources and people in housing and residence life. Set up a time to check in with your student, one you'll both agree on and one you'll both keep. Remember that as students navigate college and Uchicago, they will begin to grow and may call homeless, and this is not uncommon, and it's healthy, and you're not alone. Regardless of the frequency of need, housing and residence life employs a large professional, paraprofessional, and student staff to operate its halls. This includes resident heads, resident assistants, and assistant directors of residence life who live in either the house or the hall community and deliver academic support, help cultivate house and community leadership, and provide resources and guidance. We encourage you to talk with your student about the importance of taking responsibility for their experience in the halls. If there's a community conflict or someone is struggling to communicate, our staff can be very helpful and provide tips and tools to make communication easier. I'm very excited for you and your student at this remarkable time in their lives, and please know that the entire housing and residence life staff is ready to successfully help you and your student navigate this new and exciting adventure. Thank you so much. Melinda Wasonga, Associate Dean of Students for the college, is next.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Melinda Wasonga, and I am an Associate Dean of Students in the College Academic Advising Office. I'd like to welcome you to the University of Chicago, and once again, thank you for taking time to join us as we talk about transitioning your student to college. This conversation is particularly important today as we find ourselves managing an unknown world where the variables are ones that we could not have imagined a year ago. As the college advising staff have spoken with your students over the summer, we've heard the anxiety, the excitement, the frustration, and the energy in their voices, and we are committed to supporting them as they work through this academic year and beyond. So today I'm going to talk with you about the College Advising Office. The Advising Office is comprised of 23 full-time advisors. Now, what do I mean when I say full-time advisors? Our talented advisors come from a variety of professional and educational backgrounds. They do not have other responsibilities within the college, such as teaching or non-advising administrative duties. Rather, their full-time role is to support your students throughout their tenure in the college. The College Advising Office is actually one of the few offices within the institution whose staff meets with every student during their time here. As you may know, your student has already had at least one advising student with their advising meeting with their college advisor. They'll meet with their advisor again in a group meeting next weekend, and then we'll have one-on-one meetings at least 3 more times this academic year. Once in the autumn, once in the winter, and once in the spring quarter. Now, these are the mandatory meetings. However, students are welcome to schedule advising meetings with their advisors at any point in time. Of course, they can also communicate with their advisors via email and phone. Our office also has an advisor on call during normal business hours for students whose advisor is unavailable during that day. In this first year, advisors really focus on developing the advisee-advisor relationship. This means that they're taking time to talk with their student about their interests, their goals, their concerns. Advisors act as resources and sounding boards, engaging students in idea exploration on everything from how to approach a faculty member in office hours, how to talk with parents about them no longer wanting to go to medical school, or about which degree program fits their future aspirations. Advisors are not guidance counselors. So that is, college students have autonomy over their educational pursuits. Advisors help students to explore the options, help them figure out the puzzle of fitting in all of the majors and minors and concentrations. Advisors will lay out all of the options and talk about the possible roadblocks. But in the end, this is the student's academic experience and the choices are theirs to make. Your student's advisor, however, will be with them every step of the way through the challenges and the celebrations. So as I've mentioned, the advising relationship is between the student and the advisor. So for this relationship to grow, your student must be confident in the knowledge that the things that they share with their advisor are private. If your student invites you to attend a meeting with them and their advisor, you're most welcome to do so. Advisors usually will not meet with parents without the student present. If you have any concerns about your student, you're welcome to reach out to your student's advisor. The advisor will always ask your student for their permission to respond to you and will loop your student into the conversation. Advisors will not share specific information about your student's academics or other details. Rather, the advisor will encourage your student to have these conversations with you themselves, as this is part of having a healthy adult relationship with the parents. I'll end with some suggestions that you can pass on to your students when they seem most worried and they turn to you, or as they begin to feel the challenges of increasing responsibility and independence. First, please tell them to ask for help. We are always on their side. They don't have to go through this journey alone. They should rely on their coaches, their resident heads, their instructors, and of course, their advisors. Their advisor will be their biggest cheerleader on campus. We tell students that they cannot be successful academically if they are not socially, emotionally, and physically healthy. It is a sign of maturity to reach out for help when you need it. Second, please tell them that they belong here. They are admitted to the University of Chicago because they can be successful. This doesn't mean that everything works out perfectly on the first try. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts to find the right extracurricular activity, the right major, the right research position. Your student may struggle through general chemistry or calculus in a way that they never have before, and it's okay. Learning how to learn at this level can take time. Meeting new people and developing social connections with people that you've not known your whole life can take some time. This is all part of the normal transition process, and students go through this process in different paces. Finally, please tell them that it's okay to miss home, to miss their dog, their little brother, their friends, their bed. It may take a while for Uchicago to feel like home. Please tell them to be patient and give it a chance. By the time spring quarter rolls around, your student will feel as comfortable here as they were at home and will be excited to come back for the adventure of their second year. Again, thank you for your time today and for allowing us to work with your amazing and talented students. I'll now introduce Mita Kumar, Director of Student Counseling, Uchicago Wellness.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me now? Well, I wish you a very warm welcome to the University of Chicago. And you have probably been through a lot as a family to get your student to this point. So congratulations to all of you. I am a psychologist, the Director of Student Counseling, which is also a part of Uchicago Student Wellness. But before I tell you about our resources, I'm going to put on my parent hat first. As a parent of a college student, I can relate to all of you today. I can understand how excited you may be feeling for your student as they start a new chapter. And then given the strange and stressful times that we all are in, I can just imagine how anxious and worried you might be feeling as well. Is my student going to be okay? Will they like it here? Will they be safe and successful? And safety is on all of our minds, even though I know it's been just so difficult to know what the right thing to do these days is. So I'm here to share with you the wellness resources available to your students, as well as, just like my colleagues have, provide some tips and suggestions about how you can support your student from afar. So we at Wellness, at Uchicago Student Wellness, along with our campus partners, have been working hard to welcome your student and support their safety and well-being here. At Uchicago Student Wellness, our mission is to provide students with comprehensive health, counseling, and wellness services to support their academic, personal, and professional success. While fulfilling that mission will look different this year as we adhere to social distancing guidelines, we remain as committed as ever to delivering high quality and inclusive care. for mental health issues, whether students are just looking for support or struggling with a mental health concern, please know that there is a mental health clinician available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are also providing therapy and psychiatry appointments by phone or Zoom for both new and returning students. There are also plenty of informal resources like anonymous drop-in consultations with our therapists, weekly virtual workshops that cover a range of mental health and wellness topics to help students cope and stay resilient. We are also collaborating with our campus partners in housing to offer additional options for students to have opportunities for support because we are all concerned about the time in isolation. Throughout this academic year, we encourage students to seek help, no matter how big or small the concerns may seem. For students' physical health, our medical team is available for appointments, and we are providing most of our care via telehealth. If the situation warrants an in-person visit or blood work, we will schedule a time to come in for them to come into the Student Wellness Center. There is a 24/7 nurse line that connects students to an experienced registered nurse who can answer healthcare questions and explain care options. In addition to all of this, students can also access virtual programs like virtual mindfulness, meditation, and wellness coaching to help develop healthy behaviors, reduce stress and anxiety, and improve overall well-being throughout the academic year. As a psychologist, moving to college is a significant developmental journey. There are so many firsts and new opportunities, from the concrete and mundane, like doing laundry for the very first time, to being around new and different people, the more abstract and esoteric, like exploring and developing a sense of identity, finding meaning, and making career choices. Outside of what they will study, this is a transition to developing new life skills. There will be excitement and confidence boosting experiences to disappointments and challenges. This is all a process and will take time. But these are also uncertain and challenging times, and it's going to take all of us to do our part in keeping our community safe. While we want to support the independence and autonomy of our students, we know that you will continue to play a valuable role even from afar. Students are also likely to go first to their families and friends when they are struggling. So here are just some general suggestions for you to support your student. If you haven't done so already, talk to them openly and honestly about the upcoming transition. Ask them what they feel most concerned about. Discuss developing a plan for self-care. Each student is going to need one, but they're going to need something different that works for them. Once they move in, set up a plan to stay in touch with them on a regular basis. Invite them to share how they are doing. Even though your student may express the need to be independent, they still need to know that you're available to talk about normal events and difficult issues. And just making the time to listen and providing emotional support can really go a long way in helping them feel like they are still maintaining a sense of connection and fostering a relationship with you. And like my colleagues have said, please, please encourage them to make use of the university resources. There is an amazing network in place here, and seeking help early and in a timely way always bodes well for students. And if you feel really concerned about them, please reach out. And you can reach out to us in Uchicago Student Wellness with any concern that you have. Again, know that we will always protect student confidentiality, but we are also here to listen to you and help you navigate the system and troubleshoot the situation. So together, we will work towards keeping your students safe and well. So we wish you and your family good health and look forward to supporting your students. With that, I will pass on to my colleague, Heath, who is the Associate Vice President for Safety and Security. Eric?
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Good evening, and as Dr. Kumar stated, my name is Heath, and I serve as the Associate Vice President for Safety and Security at the university. I've worked for the university for 8 years and just recently marked my 20th year in campus public safety. Happy to be here this evening to share with you how our department serves our students and our greater community. Created in 2009, the Department of Safety and Security is a consolidated public safety agency whose main operational components include transportation and parking, campus security and security technology, emergency management and public health, environmental health and safety, and our largest and most visible unit, the University of Chicago Police Department. When I think about the areas of our department that our students interact with most, it is transportation, our security officers who work in and around campus, and our police officers who respond to emergency situations. Each of these units have an integral role in making sure your student has a safe and secure environment in which to live and learn. We offer a robust transportation network that operates both on campus and in the surrounding communities. Detailed route maps and transportation options for your students can be found on our website, but also on our mobile safety application called Uchicago Safe. Our security officers, also known as our safety ambassadors, are carefully stationed throughout our campus in the evening as a supplement to our police department. Our safety ambassadors are the cornerstone of our safety escort program, and upon request will walk with anyone who feels uncomfortable doing so in the evenings and late nights. Anyone can request a safety escort by contacting our department or through the Uchicago mobile safety application. In the rare instances that students need services from the University of Chicago Police Department, our nationally accredited law enforcement agency serves our campus 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Our law enforcement team works hand in hand with the campus and student life needs on call to ensure your students get the appropriate amount of support should they need emergency assistance. UCPD can be reached by phone or through the Uchicago Safe mobile safety application. As you might have noticed, the recurring resource that I mentioned is Uchicago Safe. It's free to any community member and can be downloaded on any Android or Apple device. Not only does the user have access to a host of safety-related resources and emergency contacts, but the user will have quick access to the Dean's On Call program, student counseling services, student wellness, as well as information regarding other local support services. Please ask your students to download Uchicago Safe before they get to campus. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you and your students over the next 4 years. Thank you, Regine.
Thank you, everyone. Sophia, Melinda, Mita, Eric, thank you for those introductions to your areas. And thank you, Whitney, for handling the chat and getting some quick responses to some of the questions that have come in and linking to areas of university and college websites. We will now transition to our pre-submitted questions and get some answers from our panelists. I will start with Sophia. Sophia, we were actually chatting earlier today about one of the most frequently asked questions about the 14-day city mandated quarantine versus the 10-day stay at home or stay in residence order expectation. So if you can differentiate that for us a little bit and help parents understand what to expect for their students.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the 10 days. Since I know the state of Florida just came off of the travel order from the city of Chicago, so that's a big state for us. So the 10-day quarantine for students arriving is akin to a stay-at-home order, which is that they are allowed to leave the residence hall to do things like exercise outside, to go to the pharmacy should they need something, to go to the grocery store. They have free reign, if you will, over the building. They can use the laundry room in the building. We will actually be delivering packages to all the students until October 5th. So they don't need to worry about picking up packages. We're actually going to bring them to them at a designated hour from the resident head. And they are allowed to access the dining hall when it opens on the 22nd. Up until the 22nd, if your student is there, and they will be having their meals delivered to them. So if you're coming from Florida because you were originally on that travel list on Sunday, we will be delivering your students' meals to them because the dining halls aren't fully open until the 22nd. The 14-day quarantine period is more restrictive, and that's from the city of Chicago. And it's very explicit that it says you're supposed to remain in your dwelling place. And we have interpreted that as the residence hall. And to that end, students will be restricted to the residence hall. We'll bring them food. They may use the laundry facilities. I know there was a question in there about laundry, so they are welcome to use the laundry facilities. But the expectation is unless they are seeking medical attention, that they are otherwise to remain in their dwelling. Are we strictly policing that? No, I can't. And I know folks have asked about moving in. Once we come in, whether we're under the 14 or the 10-day quarantine, and I'm my student's designated helper, can the student leave? Yes, the student can leave with you. The city of Chicago requests that people in the 14-day quarantine from the travel order restrict their own activities with regards to visiting restaurants and other public places, but know that once the 3-hour window has expired, the students' helpers will not be permitted into the buildings. So I hope that answers the questions.
Thanks, Sophia. Eric, let's jump to you. I'll ask a broad question about how is Uchicago ensuring the safety of its students? And I'll bundle that with what type of safety orientation are students receiving to familiarize them with campus boundaries, how to move about on campus.
Sure, thanks. Well, as I mentioned earlier, our department has a host of units and functions to ensure the safety of our students. Each of these units work collaboratively, internally, as well as externally with our various university departments, such as campus and student life, which also includes housing and residence life, as well as student wellness services. So on a day-to-day basis, our department in a variety of different areas work with all of our different university stakeholders to ensure student safety. Work very closely when incidents do happen, but also before incidents happen. In addition to university partners, we also work very closely with the Chicago Police Department and our various community stakeholders to address emerging issues on and off campus. For those that don't know, the University of Chicago Police Department has a very large extended patrol area as a result of a Chicago, City of Chicago ordinance. And of course, we work very closely with all of our law enforcement, but also community-based partners in the extended area. Every year, just very simply on the safety orientation, each year the police department presents in tandem with campus and student life Dean's on Call program during orientation, and I'm fairly confident that they address many of those topics that you discussed. The Dean's on Call program are really our hand-in-hand partners with addressing student-related issues, and on every single student-related issue where the police department is informed, Deans on Call are also informed and engaged in that process so that the student has an immediate support resource to help guide them through any particular issues, whether that's an emergency situation or a mental health crisis or just general issues that pop up. Thank you.
Thank you. Melinda, I'll jump to you. If you can please help us with some advice to give students about picking a major, petitioning to get into a class that students want to get into that they didn't. And there were some questions in the chat I saw earlier, and we've gotten this question for the last few weeks. Students who had ranked some classes when they were going through pre-reg, but ended up with classes that they had ranked lower. So what are their options for making changes before classes start? So.
Sure. So regarding choosing a major, the really interesting thing, and I think great thing about the college, two things actually. One, everyone is admitted just into the college, as opposed to a school of education or a school of business. And so this leaves all of the major options open to everyone from the beginning. The second really interesting thing, which I think is helpful, is that all students have to take at least 15 courses in what's called the College Core, which is like our general education requirement. So these are courses in the humanities, social science, physical sciences, and biological sciences. So students have the opportunity of testing out lots of different areas, sometimes before they can commit. So for our students who are truly undecided, who have no idea, we usually suggest take some core classes, check out some areas, see what you like. Maybe you've never had a philosophy class or an art history class or a biology class and you end up really loving it. I really encourage your student to talk with their advisor, because there are some majors which are more restrictive, in which we sort of have to get the ball rolling earlier, in which case it's nice to pretend, you should pretend like you're a chemistry major until you're not, kind of a thing. So again, it sort of depends on where your student is in that decision-making process, but of course their advisor will work with them. I think the second question was about consent.
Making changes. Yeah, sorry. I
Oh,
threw a lot at you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So our incoming students over the last couple of weeks have had the opportunity to make certain kinds of schedule changes with their advisor. So these have been really restricted and narrow, really for students who didn't get into a full-time schedule, or who thought they're going to be pre-med but have decided not to. So those kinds of changes that really impact their autumn quarter schedule. For other kinds of changes, so, I just don't want an 8:30 class kind of a change, or I'm in a Hume, but I want to be in a different Hume kind of a thing. Starting the first day of the quarter, students, incoming students will have access to what's called add drop. And so they will be able to make certain changes to their schedule themselves. Some classes do have consent on them, meaning that the student will have to get the instructor's consent before they can add themselves into the class. So there are some restrictions, but some student initiated changes can start the first day of the quarter for our incoming class.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Melinda. Mita, there are some questions that were submitted about transitioning to healthcare at Uchicago. So how do students get prescriptions transferred, or how do parents transition to the student managing their healthcare? And then also a change in health insurance and, I'm sorry, opting out of the school's plan and maintaining their own health insurance. Can you provide some information about that, or where to get the information?
Thank you, Regine. So it's always, we would just encourage students to contact student wellness and essentially establish a relationship with a primary care provider. So an initial visit to establish care is a good idea. We also have Nurse Navigator, who can be a great resource and is more than happy to help students. And for folks who are thinking about perhaps opting out of the school plan, it's really important that students have adequate health insurance that covers them in the Chicago area for specialty care. So we have a great team of health insurance staff who can help you with the waiver process and answer questions about which plan is right for you. So if you also like, you could send me an email, and I'm happy to put my email in the chat box. It's kumarm@uchicago.edu, and I would be more than happy to put you in touch with my colleagues who would be able to speak with you and answer any questions or concerns that you have about insurance issues.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mita. Sophia, I'm going to jump back to you. There are a lot of questions about what to expect for student engagement or student life, or to combat isolation, or that sense of isolation for students, especially in the first couple of weeks or week and a half when they're a little bit more restricted.
No, I know. So there's a couple of things. One, we, Housing Residence Life, are offering a whole host of programs, but so are the rest of our campus partners. So athletics is offering a huge schedule of online classes that students can take. There are a number of things being offered by the College Programming Office. There are a number of activities being offered by Campus and Student Life and the Student Activities offices. So there are all of these other places. We also recognize that students are going to have Zoom fatigue. I certainly know that, have myself spending sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours. I get it. So what we are encouraging is, students, you're in your residence hall, open your door, meet your neighbor from across the hall. You could you're in your room, show them who you are, because we are also very worried. Like, I was recently accused of being a student on campus, in which case I will always wear a mask since it took 20 plus years off of me. But we want students to actually know each other, to identify with each other, open their door, communicate with each other. We are hosting a movie night every night so that RAs can connect with their students. Resident heads will be actively involved. They will be programming 100%. So they'll be hosting house meals, which will be, students will be receiving their meals in their room. So it'll be a virtual, but they'll be able to talk and communicate and connect with one another. for supporting a bunch of activities, chat rooms effectively, so students can sort of pop in and meet other people and maybe find their niche of folks who might be talking about this, that, or the other. Folks have asked about in-person programming. We are not going to commence with any real in-person programming until after the quarantine period is over. After that, assuming all is awesome, we do wonderful, the students do wonderful, we'll begin doing some small, like 10 or less people sort of programming. Resident deans are really excited to do programming offerings for students. Resident heads are. I know there's a whole lot of offices on campus who are also wanting to connect with students. So I think there will be a tremendous number of in-person opportunities once the isolation period is over. And until then, we will do all the things that we can do to make outreach to students so that they can know each other and offer different types of programming regardless of what their interests. We talked about online Scrabble tournaments, and Settlers of Catan is played all the time, and apparently there's an online version game I didn't know until recently. So we're going to do all that we can do to help those students be engaged and activated and know one another, even though they won't be as physically proximate to each other as they have been historically.
Thank you, Sophia. There are some questions that we've received about testing. I'll jump in and provide some information and direct folks to places where they can receive additional info. We've communicated to the students that are expected to, that will be part of the mandatory testing program or testing protocol. Those are the students that will be living in our residence halls and our student athletes in the college. So they will be tested on a weekly basis in the autumn quarter. For students in the residence halls, this will happen prior to their move-in. So they have already received this information about their move-in slots and the time they are supposed to report to the athletic facility for their testing time. If they have not received this information or if they've forgotten this information, we are happy to provide it to them again. So please have them reach out. And for athletes, the same, this information was communicated to them by the folks in athletics. If they do not know where to find it, we're happy to re-provide it to them. We also have a voluntary surveillance program for students who are living off campus. No, Sophia, you want to chime in?
I just want to, no, that's fine. I just want to, testing starts at 7 a.m. for parents.
For who?
Parents are very worried that they're going to, so I'll give you a secret, parents. We ordinarily move about 2,000 students in 3 hours. I know you guys feel a lot of pressure. That 3 hours doesn't seem like that much time, but I do want you to know, ordinarily, honestly, we move in 2,000 students in 3 hours. But so that you know, testing, which your student must report to testing before they report to their residence hall. They can use a driver's license or other picture ID, and testing starts at 7 a.m. So even if your move-in slot is the earliest at 8, we have limited the number of people who are moving in on campus in every 3-hour window. There's only the maximum number was 200, and I don't believe there's any, that's not true. There's almost no days where we actually hit that number. So know that you can come in at 7, you can get your testing done, but you can't move into the residence hall until 8, just so that you know. I know the letter says they need their university ID, but they won't get their university ID until they come to the residence hall so they can use their driver's license. The testing folks are aware of this, and they will accept a different picture ID knowing that they don't have their University of Chicago.
Thank you. The other thing I was going to say about testing, for students that are choosing to not live in the residence halls, they were given the option to opt into a voluntary program testing protocol that will follow the same. That'll be a weekly, on a weekly schedule. So more information about that can be found on the Universities Go Forward website. So that is one of the questions about testing. And then, Whitney, was there another one on testing that I should probably address while I'm here, while I'm on?
I think Sophia covered it.
Okay, great. Let me go ahead and jump to back to Melinda. There was a question, there were a couple questions about whether the folks that the advisors that students are assigned to over the summer, whether they continue to be their advisor throughout the academic year and throughout their time in the college. and what the process is should a student want to make a change to their assigned advisor.
Sure. So the student's advisor, summer advisor, will stay with them throughout the student's tenure in the college. Of course, advisors are professionals, so should the advisor leave the college for another career opportunity, then the advisor would change. But the idea is that the student sticks with their same advisor throughout their 4 years. Now, certainly we're all humans, and sometimes relationships work well, and sometimes they don't work well. So should a student want to change their advisor, they are more than welcome to request to do so. They just need to contact the director of advising. We do encourage students, though, to give the relationship a chance, right? Because sometimes the first meeting isn't great, the second meeting isn't great, but then the third time it clicks. So for our incoming students, we really just encourage you, wait throughout autumn quarter, have your required autumn meeting, and then if winter quarter, you're feeling like this relationship, winter quarter or beyond, you're feeling that the relationship is not productive, then you can certainly request to change advisors.
Thank you. I'm going to throw in one more question for you, Melinda. Sorry, I just lost it. It's gone, never mind. Mita, can you say a little bit more about what we are planning to do differently this fall, given that not all of our students are going to be on campus, and in particular about the concerns around COVID? How are we supporting our students differently?
Sorry, I needed to unmute myself. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Regine. So as I mentioned, due to the COVID and social distancing requirements, we have pretty much shifted all of our services to virtual platforms. So we are providing most of our services either through phone or Zoom. We shifted this in the early spring quarter, so have lots of experience engaging with students. Our staff across all of the different wellness services has been working really hard, trying to be really creative and come up with lots and lots of options for students. So there's something for everyone and all different kinds of needs. And we always encourage, if the students are unsure, just take a step, get started, start anywhere that feels comfortable, whether it's going for a mindfulness meditation session or wellness coaching, reaching out to any of our clinicians, having a conversation, starting in the primary care unit. So we are all taking lots and lots of precautions, making sure that the students are safe in the COVID environment, but are also getting all of the necessary attention to their health and wellness needs.
Thank you. The next one is for Eric. This comment from a parent is, I am very worried about security. Please confirm that there will be no serious consideration of defunding the Uchicago police force. Can you take some time to address what we're hearing around the country and around the world, quite frankly, and what the university is saying about our plans to take a look at our department?
Sure. Yes, thank you for the question. As with any police agency in this country, the University of Chicago Police Department and agencies across the country always have room to improve, and we are always committed to doing so. President Zimmer and Provost Lee recently mentioned in several communications to our community that there is no plan or desire to defund or disband the university's police force. So I will say that, directly and so that all can hear that. However, at the same time, we are committed to improving, and we are engaging on a very significant engagement strategy that includes listening sessions, community surveys, as well as potential town halls discussing themes that we've heard from surveys and listening sessions to really fuel our process for improvement, where areas of improvement are identified, and then more importantly, ensure that we have good community stakeholder feedback through our processes for the future regarding, even including what does public safety at the University of Chicago and its greater community look like for the future. So a lot going on around engagement and thinking through how any improvements can be made, but more importantly, how we're engaging our community to think through the future of public safety here at the University of Chicago.
Thank you so much. Sophia, can you help us understand what the visitors policy is going to be for this fall? Will students be allowed to visit other dorms? Will they be allowed to have non-student visitors?
Thank you, Regine. As of now, for the fall quarter, there are no guests permitted in the residence hall of any kind. So your students may not have their friend from another residence hall come into their residence hall. They will need to meet outside the residence hall. Students who want food delivery must meet their folks outside the residence hall in order to receive that food delivery. There will be no siblings, no parents, no close associates permitted in the residence halls. We are in a lockdown state inside our residence halls. That being said, students are permitted to move about campus, the city, go visit other people and places. I strongly encourage them, if you're taking public transportation, utilizing your U-Pass, face mask, face mask, face mask, keep social distance, do those things to keep yourself safe and your students safe.
Thank you. This next one is going to be for both Sophia and Melinda. What happens when a student gets sick and it is looking like it's going to impact their academics? How do we institutionally support them when they need to be offline for a little bit?
I can take the physical portion of this with regards to what happens when my student tests positive, if my student tests positive. So students so we do have a mandatory testing program in the residence halls. There is actually a testing location in each residence hall. It is open from 8 in the morning until I believe 7 or 8 in the evening. And the students, when they have gone in to register with their MyChart, they'll get a notification. It says, working to fix it, everybody says 7:45 a.m., which is actually not true. So if your student gets a notification that their test is on the 29th at 7:45 a.m., it's actually testing all day long. But students can go down and get their test. The test results will be in hand 48 hours outlier, but they're really planning it to come back at 24 hours. The test result will be posted immediately to their MyChart. The student will get a phone call from a medical person from Student Wellness if their test is positive. They will have a thoughtful conversation with them, talk about what it looks like in terms of treatment for them, in terms of going to housing, staying connected, what over-the-counter medication should they take, et cetera, et cetera. And on the housing side, we will be notified that a student has tested positive. We will reach out to the student after they've spoken to Wellness, and we will talk to the student about helping them get their things together. They will have 90 minutes to pack their belongings to move for 2 weeks, we anticipate, into isolation housing. We have a checklist. We'll remind them, because no doubt they might be a bit surprised about what they need to take. 14 days of underwear, laptop chargers, laptops, phones, those sorts of things. Medication that they might need, additional contact lenses, those sorts of things we will walk through to support the students to get that. They don't need to take any of their linens, their pillows, their blankets. We will provide all towels, all sheets, all blankets for students while they're in isolation housing, and they can have as many sheets and towels as they want and refresh them as often as they want. And the student will be transported from their residence hall into one of our 2 isolation housing locations. They will go via ambulance unless they choose to walk themselves. Don't be alarmed, parents. We 100% are footing the bill for an ambulance. It just wasn't ethical for us to put a student into an Uber knowing that they were COVID positive. And so they will be moved in, they will be received at the desk where they are coming in, and they will be assigned a room space. And in that room space, they will, if they are in one of our locations, they have small kitchens, and the other ones, they will have a fully stocked fridge with juices and Gatorades and waters. Vending machines in those buildings have actually been turned into dispensaries for over-the-counter medication should they need that while they're there. We'll have a staff member, we'll have shifts of staff members who are there to drop-offs for students if they need stuff. We'll get their food delivered to them. We'll get any other medications that they might need delivered to them. There'll also be a person, a nurse in each of those buildings to support students should they have something they're concerned about, or they feel as if their symptoms have escalated so that they can get triaged. We will let their resident head know that they're going to isolation so that their resident head can continue to connect with them and support them. And if they would like to connect with their RAs or their VPAs, we would love it if they connected with their resident assistant. They'll also receive daily contacts and from the student wellness offices to check in on them, to see how their symptoms are going, to see how they're feeling. So they will get a, I've joked but been very serious. I'd rather the students tell us that we're bothering them as opposed to that we don't care. We intend to ping them a lot to make sure that they're getting their needs met, both physically, but also socially and psychologically. So those things will be taking place in isolation housing. When a student is medically cleared from their quarantine housing, they may return to their residence halls, and we will support that return for them. We'll put them in an Uber if they'd like. That's what I'm saying.
Thanks, Sophia.
The academic.
Melinda, thanks.
Sure. From the academic side, so it really depends on how the student is feeling. If the student is well enough to continue to engage with classes, they will be able to attend their classes remotely. So even the courses that currently are scheduled for in-person instruction, the instructor will work with the student in a manner that will allow them to continue with the class as per normal in a remote fashion. So their education won't be interrupted if they are quarantined or not able to physically attend any in-person class. If a student is not well enough to engage in class, it depends on the severity of their illness and when they're able, when the onset of the illness and when the student thinks they would be able to return. So for example, if a student just might be out a week or two, we'll work with the student and the faculty member so that the student can be out, recover, and then sort of transition back into classes. If a student's illness is such that they cannot continue with the quarter, again, there are a couple of options depending on when this happens. So if it's within the first 3 weeks of the quarter, and if the student, is like, this quarter is a wash, I can't continue, we'll go ahead and work with the student just to have those courses sort of removed from their transcripts. We'll put them on a leave of absence and they can come back in the winter quarter or something. If it's a little bit later in the quarter, so for example, if a student has completed most of the work for the class in November, they fall ill, and we work with the student and the instructor so that the student can receive incomplete grades in those courses, which means that the student is able to take a break from the course and then finish the work at a later date. And the date is determined between the student and the instructor. They usually have up to a year. Obviously, we don't encourage them to take that long to finish a course, but the student is given enough time that they need to still be able to successfully complete the courses. So again, we work with students. There are just a lot of variables that sort of that come into play.
Perfect, thank you. Can I also ask you to do a quick tag along? If a student is, and this is not necessarily COVID, not strictly COVID related, but if a student is ill and they are going to be out for a long time and they need to separate themselves from the university for an extended period of time, can you talk us through that process, please?
Yeah, so the same variables apply. Again, if a student has to leave campus or separate from the institution for any reason, again, it depends on what it is in the quarter. The options vary. We do have a facility for students to take what's called a leave of absence, which is a break from the institution. Again, the types of leaves and the reasons for leaves really depend on the student. But the idea is that if a student for any reason feels that something is going on and they may have to take a break from the institution, they should follow up with a college advisor who will talk about all of the options. And again, this is not just COVID related. For a variety of reasons, students' education can be interrupted. It can be someone getting ill or just a variety of reasons. So if during the quarter the student thinks they'll have to be gone from anywhere for a week or beyond, they should definitely follow up with their college advisor to talk about their options.
Thank you so much. We are at the end of our session. I'm going to ask my colleagues if there is anything from their pre-submitted questions that they wanted to quickly address before we wrap up. Actually, Sophia, I'm going to ask you one more. Can you talk about the end of the quarter? Thanksgiving, finals, what does that look like for students that are leaving early, possibly wanting to go home, come back?
So yes, on 11/20 That is the end of in-person instruction. Students are, if they choose to, may leave their residence hall and head home. If students choose to leave their residence hall for Thanksgiving break and go off someplace else, they are not permitted back in the residence hall. If they choose to go home, they will not be able to come back into the residence halls until the beginning of the next quarter. However, students who want to stay will receive, I'm guessing probably mid to late October, and they'll receive several notifications. We would like them to just sign up so we know who's here. Our resident assistants are also students, and they have also been given the liberty to leave on 11/20 if they want to. So we want to make sure that we have our eyes on folks and are supporting them if they choose to stay. We will provide services to them, same as always. There will be food, and they can stay, or they can choose to not stay. That's entirely up to. That's a conversation between you and your student.
Thank you. We will close out. Oh, no, one more.
Looking out for folks testing. I want to let you know that there is shuttle service from Ratner to each residence hall. There's a shuttle that's running. It's being wiped. It will be an emptier shuttle because we are practicing social distancing and we know students are coming with things. So just know that also there's a shuttle service that is running from Ratner to our residence halls should your student be coming by themselves. So to make sure that they can get from Ratner without having to. I had a student who lovingly volunteered to walk himself and his belongings all the way to Woodlawn. I said, no, we'll help you out. So know that that is there.
Thanks, Sophia. Again, a big thank you to my colleagues and to the college programming and orientation team for organizing this session, and to you, our new students' families, for taking the time to be with us this evening. We hope this has been helpful and has addressed some of your outstanding questions, and if nothing else, introduced you to the areas of the university where you can direct your students should they need support or assistance in the near future. We look forward to seeing some of you during move-in days starting this weekend and working with your students in the coming year. Thank you for entrusting Uchicago with your students. I assure you there are a lot of people who are working incredibly hard to make this year the best that it can be, all things considered. For those of you traveling to join us on campus this weekend and next, we wish you safe travels. And for those of you who are joining us in the coming days from all over the globe, we look forward to seeing you. We wish you the very best for a great quarter. Thank you again for your questions and for taking the time to join us. Have a good night.